you got a good foundation, you got a few producing reps, you got a really cool opportunity that scales remotely. That's awesome. I love it. I think you can crush it, absolutely crush it. A little bit of a
Thank you.
long sales cycle, bare minimum income 60K, but really it's, I would say 120 to 180K opportunity, at least in year two, three-ish, if somebody's producing full time and actually like, hustling. So I do want to make an adjustment based on how we advertise the role because I want to advertise for kind of all the ranges. Even if there's future sales leadership opportunities, I want to advertise that. If
Yeah.
there's a six-figure income opportunity, I want to advertise that. Okay, cool. So just a few notes. And do you have like a plan for what you want to scale over the next like 1 to 2, 3 years? Like anything specific? Or are you just looking to, or are you just like tunnel vision trying to figure out the commission-based model right now?
I mean, our growth plans were kind of hampered. Like like last year, I got the first rep. He did well, and I was like, okay, now we're gonna go balls in with Phoenix, and then we're gonna just go all out everywhere. And then we kind of had some issues. So my kind of thinking is like, hey, once I can get Salt Lake down and kind of like that process, like, hey, let's just rinse and repeat it on every market because I feel like the operation side we have it pretty dialed in.
And
It's
that's what you
just
mean by kind of the scale piece. Salt Lake, you wanted to figure out the fulfillment, the subcontracting, all that before you scaled sales.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we kind of struggled because, like I told you, we had six. Like earlier this year, we did like a commission only for Houston and Miami. Our kind of original thought process of hiring is like we are going to hire people with janitorial sales experience. What we
Mm.
found was they didn't have strong sales prospecting skills. It was more they were their roles in the past were like 50-50 operations. They didn't have the professionalism that like kind of we wanted. They kind of
Yeah.
struggled with the CRM and like making sure documentation. So we kind of fizzled out of those locations, but we were able to get a decent amount of leads for them.
Yeah. The perfect kind of candidate up your alley is like that, you know, 22 to 30-year-old guy, right? You're a young
Yeah.
founder, right? You want the guy that was like me when I was 21 and got into commission-based sales, or my second sales job when I was 23. And I was just somebody who would follow the process and work hard and right
Yeah.
the nature of the system produced the results. And it
Yeah.
seemed it seems like, if you're and you flush through your sales model. So if you understand that for, proposals working in the field or on the phones, whatever the nature of the model is the
Yeah.
norm, which is 16 a month, you know, that shows me like there's a lot of opportunity in the marketplace compared to the typical B2B opportunity. So you can't take the entry level sales rep. And so the recruiting piece will be easy because reps will like, opportunities that exist as the company scales. If it's a remote opportunity, we can create a really exciting vision and really paint a picture of the leadership opportunities that exist as the company scales. So the younger guys will like that. Really, that's incredibly important when you scale. And I'll recap on those details in a second. The recruiting piece will be simple. It'll really come down to the training piece, the onboarding process that we end up building out. A couple notes for you that are important, and this should be pretty simple to do, but it'll help your conversion rates, the future vision of the organization, right? So you've built a really amazing foundation over the last 4 years, and you have flushed through kind of the fulfillment, the scaling to as many markets as you want to. So if you go when you go through the recruiting training later, you'll understand where some of these details about your company fit into the kind of group pitch, but that's going to be a part of the story. I invested and bought this business 4 years ago, and over the last 4 years, what we've fleshed out, what we've perfected, is the nature of our sales system. So I know
Yeah.
exactly what it looks like to go into the field and do X, Y, and Z to produce A, B, and C results. And that's really important for you candidates here because you want to plug into an organization that has a proven sales system because that's the nature of what you're doing every single day is actually running the sales system to produce a specific result. And so we've been working for 4 years and perfecting that and also perfecting kind of our overall large vision of scaling nationally. And one of the most exciting things about this opportunity is not only do we have a proven sales system and a proven income opportunity with a proven
Yeah.
brand and a service, but we have a really exciting vision. Let me break that down, right? And so from there, you want to come up with, really, really big. And for you, you can have fun with this because it's remote. You can fulfill anywhere. So, in theory, in 3 years, you can have 200 reps if you want to, right?
Hmm.
I'm not saying that's what you want to do, but if you're at a few reps today and you probably have revenue goals right now. So let's say that you're at a couple $1 million in revenue, right? The next goal is
Yeah.
probably 4 to 5 million. But what happens if we go to 2 to 4, 5 million when we reverse engineer the sales team required to accomplish those goals? The sales team required to get there is not really large. So from an advancement opportunity perspective, it's not as exciting as maybe other opportunities. So you want to think 3, 4, 5 goals down the line. If I'm hypothetically at 2 million and I'm going, my current desire is to go to 4 to 5 million, which will be huge for the company. I want to think through those next 2 to 3, 4 goals down the line. So maybe it's going from 2 to 20 million or whatever, like a realistic,
Hmm.
honest number is. Not making up something out of the
Yeah.
blue, but man, if we did this, then I would definitely go here. If we accomplished that, then I'd go here. And right, so you want to think about it in that way, so that when you stretch out hypothetically 2 to 20 million and reverse engineer the sales team required to get there, you have an executive sales leader, multiple regional sales managers overseeing, 5 to 8, 10 field sales reps each. And really what you're doing in step 7 of the group interview process, which will make more sense later, is you're selling into the growth and the vision of the organization. So over the next 36 months, over the next 3 years, we're going to grow from 2 to 20 million, and that's naturally
Yeah.
going to require X, Y, and Z. A VP of sales, 8 sales managers, and eight sales teams of 8, or whatever the numbers are, right? So you want to reverse engineer what the actual objective numbers are. So let's say that I'm going from 2 to 20 million, and we have a rep quota of 250K or
Hmm.
500K. Do you know what that number is, by the way? Kind of like that bare minimum annual expectation? Is it $1 million, 500K, 250K? I know for you it can scale because they're accounts, but if you were to look at year two-ish, what would you kind of expect?
If we have it at 5,000 per month, that would get us to about the ARR at month 12 would be around 700,000.
Okay, 700,000,
Yeah.
right? So, we probably want to pitch an opportunity where the bare minimum expectation is not 700,000, it's 1.4 million. And that's
Hmm.
kind of, year one is a very, very conservative, right? You're being honest in the recruiting process, a very,
Yeah.
very conservative worst case minimum. You'll make 60 grand in your first year getting up to a ramp up of 700K in revenue. In year two, the expectation is getting to a bare minimum of 1.4, which is going to put you on track for 120K to 150K income. And what's really
Hmm.
amazing about this business is your accounts and your relationships and the residuals continue to compound as you build your market or whatever,
Yeah.
if there is a residual piece to the kind of comp. So you're selling the residual aspect. Really, it gets really attractive in year two, year three, year four, thinking about it long term. And so that's really unique about your opportunity.
Hmm.
Assuming there's the residual piece. If it's not, let me know. But
So we give
yeah,
a first commission like the first month,
okay,
so that way it's like quick money, and
yeah,
then we give the second commission at month 9.
month
Uh,
nine. Okay,
yeah,
killer.
and then our thinking was once they hit like once they kind of let's say 6 months in, they can kind of hit 30K ish like recurring revenue, then we can bump them up to an actual base.
At the beginning for now, since we're laser
Mm.
focused on transitioning from the salaried model to the all commission
Yeah.
model, I would just leave the base and those things out of your language because people get
Okay.
focused on, things that are not in reality today.
Yeah.
So I would kind of get through your learning curve and crank out for the next 3 to 6 months, get the team off the ground, advance some
Hmm.
leadership, and then start to cherry pick people who make it past their first 3 to 6 months and do the salary piece. And
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't put that into the recruiting process because then people will be like, "Well, can I get the base now?" And you'll be wasting time in the recruiting process.
Yeah.
So, specific on your vision, right? You want it to be very
Mhm.
objective. 2 to 20 million, VP of sales, five, whatever the numbers are. This is
Mhm.
exactly what we're building. And what's excited about this opportunity is we know that very bare minimum, you're going to make 60K in the first 12 months, but up to 120K. In year two,
Mhm.
bare minimum, you're going to make 100K and up to 180K. So really, this is a
Mhm.
six-figure income opportunity, but really conservatively that happens in year two. So we want you to know that if you commit to this opportunity, although for a lot of you who end up moving forward will do better than the bare minimum of 60K, you got to be okay with 60K in the first year. If that is not good enough for you, then that's probably a sign that you're going to waste your time. And we're going to waste our time. So don't move forward after the group
Mhm.
presentation. But the
Yeah.
vision is huge. So in the group presentation, especially with your remote and super scalable model, and you can sell the crap out of that. And that's going to really help
Yeah.
increase your conversion rates. And then also for you, because you're open to kind of the entry level guy or gal that maybe hasn't made a ton of money yet because of the nature or because of the simplicity of the model. You can communicate like, hey, there's going to be people that move forward that have been in sales before that have made 6 figures, but they're going to transition to an industry that they just love more. And I'm excited for you to learn more about our industry and talk to you more in your one and in the one-on-one. But there is a lot of you who maybe historically you've only made 40, 60, maybe up to to 80K. And what's really cool about this model for those of you who align with the opportunity, align with our values, et cetera, as you get through your first 3 to 6 months, what you're going to experience at this organization is you're going to experience a 50%, 100%, 150% increase in income being in this specific opportunity. And so what that happens for you is you're starting to speak to the younger kind of crowd a little bit who's maybe not made a ton of money and connecting to them that they're going to 2x their income specifically in this potential performance-based sales position. So what we love to do is we love to take guys who have made 40 to 60K and 2 to 3x their income in the first 1 to 2 years working with us. So that's kind of the main note there. But as you develop your vision and you start to communicate that clearly in the group presentation, which comes in step 7 out of step 8, it helps increase your conversion rates post group interview. But then, like the cherry on top, when you get into your one-on-one interviews, like let's say you get a decent candidate like me into your group presentation, and I go, hey, this guy's got a really scalable model. This is super interesting. I do want to meet with him one-on-one, and I fill out the form post-group interview to meet you one-on-one. For a higher quality candidate, they're going to be like, tell me more about the leadership opportunity and what I need to do to accomplish earning that. And so
Yeah.
from there, you want to have an objective path into sales leadership. Okay, so that could look like 6 months. In the first 3 months, they have to consistently accomplish 5 specific things over the 3 months consistently to be qualified as a sales manager in training. But
So the sales manager, because they would have to manage reps, right? So we would have to be hiring like 4 people to 3
yeah,
people, let's say a month.
based on your notes, 2 to 4 reps a month, right? I
Hmm.
think four needs to be your minimum because there's attrition.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but as your team, every time you get like to 5 at least and up to 10 reps, you need to start delegating leadership responsibilities to somebody,
Hmm.
right? So if you're going to continue to scale this national program because it's infinitely scalable, and you create this really exciting vision, well, what you want to do, it'll help from a retention and management perspective, but as it relates to recruiting, when you get into your one-on-one interviews, you can sit down with me and say, okay, cool. I love that you're excited about taking one of these 5 leadership opportunities that's going to open up in the next 1 to 2 years. If I'm asking you what I need to do to accomplish that, you get to objectively show me, hey, yeah, so it's really conservatively a 6-month process. Here it is on paper. Okay, so the
Yeah.
first 2 months, you need to consistently perform and execute 16 proposals minimum over the first 90 days, which is whatever, 48 proposals in your first 90 days. That's the bare minimum that you need to do, right? You come
Hmm.
up with a list of like 4, 6, 8 things. Participate in 90% of the sales team meetings and not be flaky in our management process. Follow the sales system. Produce XYZ amount of leads every single week. Perform at a top 10 to 20% level, which looks like this. Maybe that's 20 proposals a month. So you want to come up with, kind of the 4, 6, and I can help you flesh out the specifics if you want. I'm just talking high level so you can hit me with questions in a little bit, but you would come up with, hey, here's the 4, 6, 8 things that we want to see consistently in the first 3 months. And as you accomplish these things in the first 3 months, then you objectively qualify to transition as a sales manager in training. And in
Yeah.
months 4, 5, and 6, we're going to delegate leadership responsibilities to you. So by the end of 6 months, you're the full-time leader with XYZ compensation, and you're managing a team of 8 reps or whatever the structure
Yeah.
is. So the point is develop the vision because that'll increase not just for the sake of doing it for fun, but it'll actually help the recruiting conversion, both on the volume and the quality side. And
Yeah.
then painting a picture of what it looks like to actually advance in your one-on-ones for some of the candidates who are more experienced, who are going to be interested in that, that'll help you close them up as well. So those are just the reason I mentioned that. It's a couple tips with the recruiting process.
Yeah.
In terms of comp, it sounds like you've kind of develop something solid, right? So you got the proposal piece that's really simple. That kind of replaces the activity-based training pay kind of concept. So we flushed through that. Any questions on any of this stuff so far?
How about on the pay for the training, like the first week training? Should there be
Yeah.
like a stipend on that? Like,
Yeah. So it's a great question. So just to kind of paint a picture of what the onboarding process is going to look like, there's really 4 components. Okay.
hmm,
3 of them are training components, and one of them is really an onboarding kind of organization component. So reps need the information, they need role play, they need coaching, and they need structure. The information is the stuff that you mentioned. Your leader spends all day for 2 days, whatever, 16 hours, getting the new reps the information that they need. So all of that stuff, we will work with you to transition that to videos, documents, and quizzes inside of your own learning management system. And that'll reduce
hmm,
that leadership workload and automate the informational side of the onboarding process. So fully branded, edited videos, documents, and quizzes. And that's 10 hours of training, whatever the time investment is. And reps go through that 2 to 3, 4 times in the first 2 to 3, 4 weeks to retain the information. So that's the first thing that we help build. The second thing is role play. So you may have got a demo on the role play platform, but
yeah.
we'll take the scripts, the objections, FAQs, all that stuff, and create role play simulations so reps can log in and practice whatever aspects of the script that they're learning at that time, right?
Yeah.
knocking the door, getting a yes to send in a proposal, whatever that
Yeah.
conversation is. We'll be able to automate the role play of that so they can practice and master the communication side of the sales position through AI. Then the third piece that we build out, a training component, is coaching AI, which is a tool where reps will be able to, whether they're on the phones or via Zoom or in the field or all the above, they'll be able to record the conversations that they're having and get feedback
Yeah.
based on the real sales conversations that they're having
Yeah.
with prospects. And so those are the kind of the three training components: the university, role play, and coaching. That automates the training piece that's really leadership time heavy. And the last fourth piece is the structure. And so we'll help you build out a 2 up to 4 week day by day onboarding structure where reps know exactly what they need to do every single day. Show up on Monday, new hire orientation, plug into XYZ sales tech tools, your CRM, your company email, your phone system, set up your calendar, go through universities, Pinnacle University module 1 and 2, do 5 role plays at the field sales, door to door pitch,
Mhm.
submit, find and source and submit your first 10 leads to the CRM, show up to the end of
Yeah.
the meeting, right? So whatever the onboarding tasks are, there'll be 4, 6, 8 of them every single day for the first 2 weeks. And that's that initial really cookie cutter experience where reps know exactly what they need to do every single day to ramp up into success.
Yeah.
In short, compensation, kind of a cherry on top, is attaching a bonus to that 2 week checklist. So it'll end up having like 25 plus tasks each week, so 50 plus over 2 weeks. And so for you, it's, hey, our sales system and our sales model is really, really simple. It's all foundationally built on, prospecting, getting a yes for a
Mhm.
proposal, getting the proposal sent. That's the easiest part of our job. That's the foundation of all the success, and it's really easy to
Mhm.
learn that within a couple weeks as long as you go out and do the activities. And so in the first 2 weeks, you're going to experience the best onboarding process you've ever been a part of. For some of you, you've had 2, 3, 4, 10 jobs. I don't know yet, but you probably experienced poor onboarding and training. That will not be the case at Pinnacle. You're going to get the information through Pinnacle
Yeah.
University. We're going to make sure you get the role play that you need so you master the pitch. We're going to make sure that you get the coaching in the field and on the phones that you need to master the role. And you're going to plug into day by day structure so you know exactly what you need to do every single day to be perfectly on track for success. And as long as you follow the initial 2 to 3, 4 week onboarding process, you're going to get $1,000 bonus at the end of your first 2 weeks, and that'll snowball into you getting your proposal. So you'll just attach a bonus if you want to them accomplishing every task in that initial 2 weeks, and that'll be kind
Yeah.
of still financially conservative for you, but beneficial for the rep. So maybe they get $500 or $1,000 for those first 2 weeks, or if you want to extend it out to 4 weeks, they can get like a couple grand
Yeah.
so that they're making whatever 3 to 4K in their first month, and that's a good starting place. One training resource that we have, if some of these things are kind of valuable that I'm covering today, there's
Mhm.
like 50 nuggets like this. Okay.
Yeah.
And we do live training every Friday. You mentioned a leader, I think. Every
Mhm.
Friday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time, we just do it live on YouTube. I walk through certain phases of scaling a commission-based sales team. Now, we're going to build out your onboarding infrastructure, and the end result of that will be reducing your leadership workload by 80% and increasing retention rates by 2 to 5x. And we're going to co-manage the recruiting process for you and make the recruiting side easy.
Mhm.
But what we do is I pretty much do live training every single week on different topics. So sales strategy, sales system, sales recruiting, sales onboarding, sales
Yeah.
management, what it looks like to advance leadership into, taking over responsibilities for you. And those are
Yeah.
on YouTube, Sales Recruiting University, live. You can watch the recordings, obviously. But for where you guys are at, that would be useful for you to pay attention to, at least in the next like 5 to 6 weeks. Other than that, where you're at right now is just going through the recruiting training, the group interview, the final interview training. That's through our course. The recruiting process is, we're building out an ads process, a screening and sketching process, a group interview process, a final interview process. You
Yeah.
guys are going to do the group. You're going to do the final interview. The biggest focus for you in the recruiting side is the group piece. So when you go through that 8 step group interview presentation, think about it in context of our call today. But that's kind of the big focus for you, the group, selling the pitch, and make sure you develop your vision, finalize kind of that initial activity-based onboarding compensation, whatever that is. And actually, last piece for you is whatever that ramp up is to 5K per month minimum, map that out over whatever timeline it takes to get there. So if that's 90
Mhm.
days or 6 months, make that really cookie cutter. Okay. So I want to, because in step 6 of the group presentation, it's about communicating clearly what it really looks like to ramp up into the position. So if they take next steps into the one-on-one, you're not meeting with people that think they're maybe making 5K in month 1. And it's like, no, that's month 3 if you do the work. And so if it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever the timeline is, think through those numbers, right? hopefully it's not this slow, but just to paint an example, let's say that your conservative estimate was they're going to make 5K per month, and it took hypothetically five months to get there, just to make the numbers real
Hmm.
cutter. Well, I'm going to reverse engineer the numbers down to month one. So if month five they make 5K, maybe month four they make four, month three they make three, month two they make two, and month one they would make one. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
communicate that, hey, here's the future of the opportunity. Here's what it looks like in the future. Here's what year one bare minimum looks like. Here's what year two looks like. Here's our vision. Here's the leadership opportunities that exist. But it's incredibly important that you understand if you want to move forward, here's what it really looks like to ramp up in the first 5 months. Month one is going to look like this, two like this. And if this is not good enough for you, then that's a sign that this is probably not a fit. But
Hmm.
if it is, and you can ramp up and you do the work, here's what one, year two look like for those of you who kind of
Hmm.
make it. So anyways, clarity is incredibly important. So you want to build trust by being really transparent in the ramp up period, which is for you really important because it's B2B. That'll build trust, actually help you in the recruiting process, but save you time in your one-on-ones. So you communicate the actual
So would like
details.
making like a Google sheet where it's like month one, two, three, four, just like the 12-month like ramp up period.
Yeah, yeah. For you, I would, I assume that, whatever it takes to get to that bare minimum, 5K,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then for you to kind of like, I don't want to say oversell it if this is not honest, don't do this, but let's say that it was 5 months and it may be sooner
Hmm.
for you. I don't know. Let's say it's 5 months. Well, you're going to throw in some language like, here's the very conservative worst case numbers if you do X, Y, and Z over months one, two, three, four, five. But my expectation for 20% of our staff on the sales side is to do 50 to 100% better, meaning that for some of you by month five, you're going to be making 8 to 10 grand a month. Okay. But it's not going to be the
Hmm.
conservative norm. So you'll kind of like throw that into the mix to help kind of sell through a little bit more. And then for you on a Google Sheet, maybe not, that won't be good visually. We're going to develop a group interview PowerPoint presentation for you. And in step six, which is where when you communicate the ramp up details, that's typically where those details are. We give you a general presentation and you can kind of, tweak it up to your liking. If you were to use like an Excel sheet or a Google Sheet, that may not look visually clear. So I would just make it really cookie cutter, maybe on a document months one through
Document.
five or
Yeah.
months with three, and just make it really, really easy for somebody to look at it so they're not confused or overwhelmed by it. But the point is clarity there, even in you just communicating the details, is important. So, hey, I want to be absolutely clear on what it really looks like to ramp up in your opportunity because if you're this far, that means you're interested in, our culture, our industry, our company, the general sales model. But this is really what it looks like to ramp up into success. And so you want that to be clear. So you're setting expectations and not wasting time. And so you don't get into the onboarding process and people are surprised by the actual details of what it looks like to ramp.
If someone hits 5,000 a month, we were gonna pay 30% commission in the first month, plus they're getting 1,600 on the proposals. That gets them to 3,100, and then they're gonna get another 1,500 at 9 months. Is that too long of a ramp period? Because that gets me at 4,600 a
What's the
month.
9 month? What's the 9 month thing? You're just protecting cash flow, but trying to give them more at the same time is,
It's like a bonus for like retention, like that they retained the account for 9 months.
yeah, I would say that's, I like the idea of it, but it's not gonna be too beneficial for, from a rep recruiting and retention perspective. I
Hmm.
would be more interested in just, breaking that down on a monthly basis and probably just building in like even, some type of residual for the first year or something like that. So instead of 1,500 for, 9 months in, call it $100 an account, for the first 12 months or something like that, which ends up being less, but it's more attractive right now. And you can pitch residual in the recruiting process. But that's
Mm.
just my personal opinion, because that'll make recruiting easier and then also benefit retention. It's probably still cost effective for the company without hurting the company, but better for the sales rep. Is the
Yeah.
30% thing? I did see something about that. That's just at the beginning. What is the actual profitable, proper kind of base comp for the role that's good for the company?
Well, we try to aim for a gross profit of about 30%.
The sales rep, you're paying rep on gross profit or total revenue.
We're doing 2.5% on the annual at 3 months and then 2.5 at 9 months. But they have a base of about 60K.
Okay, but
Yeah.
there's not going to be a base now, so
Yeah.
5%. So what like if you were to, you said on contract value,
Yeah.
right? So collected revenue. And how does that work? So let's say I do a 60K contract with you for cleaning. I'm paying 5K per month. Is how it work over 12 months?
Yeah.
Is there any reason not to just kind of make it cookie cutter and start building up residual? Did you kind of design it like this to give them more front end money?
I designed it like this to, yeah, for the front end money, like, hey, you're gonna get paid fast at that
Mhm.
month mark. You also have the incentive to like retain the account,
You
yeah.
know, because me personally, because part of it is them understanding it, right? If I don't get it really easily, then my confidence in moving forward maybe hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously you can explain the comp and make it clear, but the simpler the better. Though, what I think may be kind of more interesting, what is that timeline if you were to say to ramp up into, the 30K per month, which is I think you said 5K per month in commissions on average. Like, what would you say is that timeline? Is that month one, you said? Or is it two?
So to get to 5K a month, we've had reps like our first main rep that we hired that wasn't in management, he got it by month two.
And
But
his
like let's just say average, our goal is 3 months.
So 3 months. I
Yeah.
think me personally, and if you were to just pay on total contract value and it's all commission, what's kind of the profitable number for the company? Since you've done salary plus 5%, although it's spread out, would that mean you can do like 10% or is it more or less?
I'm open to going like pretty aggressive, especially because
Yeah.
I'm not paying a salary. Because like
Yeah.
right now
So,
our payback period is a year, assuming they perform, which is not sustainable.
yeah. So, whether it's 10, 15, 20%, whatever, or more, I would finalize that number, but make sure, you want to think about when you develop that vision, right? You want to think about the costs in general for that leadership structure. So let's say that, like, okay, Ryan said to create this vision. So, okay, we got a VP of sales, an executive sales leadership layer, a sales management layer, then the reps. There's three layers there. That's a cost to the company as you add those roles.
Yeah.
Let's say that, at scale, you're still profitable in the way that you want to as the founder to be profitable, giving away 25% of the revenue of the company. It could be less. I don't know, just
Hmm.
hypothetically, right? Well, you're not going to give 25% to the rep, right? You're going to think through, okay, well, we have three layers of human resources on the sales side. We got executive sales leadership, one, we got sales management, two, and then we got sales rep. So there's three roles and arguably maybe another layer of admin and tech, right?
Hmm.
So, in that example, I had 25%, I'm probably going to remove 10% of that, and that's going to be saved for my leadership structure, which is going to leave me 15%. And the 15% is what I'm going to use to outline the compensation with for the core position I'm hiring for now, which is sales. So, in that illustration, it'd be like 15%. So then the answer is, so the question is how do I want to structure the 15% for the rep? Do I give them 10% and then they get a up to 5% bonus in some way? For you, since it's kind of a long ramp up, I would say, and this is kind of what you're doing already, I think, is you're giving the max to the rep now, just because of the nature of the
Yeah.
sales role not being really high income. So in that example, I'd say, hey, let's just do 15% residual if that works. So what
It's
that would
more
mean is
attractive.
that, yeah, it's understandable, right? Hey, really simple, 15% commission on revenue. A $3,000 account is going to make you, $3,000 monthly account, which is 36 over, 12 months is going to make you $450 in residual income, right? So it's a beautiful thing about this opportunity is the residual your accounts scale up as you stick with the company and produce more. That right there makes you really separate from the marketplace. That'll help you from a recruiting and retention perspective.
Hmm.
But that right there is not the sexiest in the first 90 days, right? So it's about then getting them through the first 90 days because they're not making a ton of money because it's 15% or whatever on residuals. If I do 20 account, 10 grand in my first month or whatever, that's only 1,500 bucks or whatever, right? So then the goal is, hey, how do we get them through their first 90 days? That's when we think about. So I
Yeah.
got this really cookie cutter, easy to understand residual comp plan, which aligns with the company, aligns with the long-term profitability of the company, makes it much more attractive from a recruiting and retention perspective because I'm making money monthly, and there's no ceiling. That means I can make 3, 4, 500K long term if I'm here in 5 years or whatever, right? So to me, I'm selling that opportunity. I'm selling the leadership opportunities, and all of a sudden, your model to me is a top 1 to 5% opportunity because of the nature of those elements. But then it's about getting the reps through the first 90 days, and that's where you kind of extend what I said with the 2 week checklist piece and extend it over 90 days, so they get a couple more bucks in the first 3 months. So it's, hey,
Yeah.
it takes 90 days to ramp up into whatever a 5K per month residual income. And our goal is to get you there as soon as possible to conservatively 3 months. And so month one, you make 1K, month two, you'll make 3K, month three, you'll make 5K. That's kind of what it looks like
Mhm.
conservatively, or whatever the actual numbers are. It's probably something like that, right? And then what you do is you lay out the activities for those first 3 months, weeks one, two, three, four, five, all the way through 12. And you go, if you do X, Y, and Z weeks one, two, three, and four in month one, you get this bonus. If you do this in month two, weeks five, six, seven, and eight, you get this bonus. And that'll help bridge the income, sexy up the income a little bit in those first 2 months as they get to the 5K per month income in month three. And so you're pitching an opportunity where huge org chart, a lot of opportunity for growth, a residual comp plan that's really attractive. So the income gets better
Mhm.
every single year and it's simple to understand. And then you're just helping close the income gap in the first 90 days with activity based onboarding comp.
What are your thoughts if I did this 30% on the first month? So that's like
Mhm.
quick cash on the monthly. So let's just say they close 5,000,
Mhm.
and then 5% for the first year.
Yeah, is that, are you asking that for the benefit of the company or because you think that's more attractive on the rep side?
I'm asking that because of the benefit of the company, because we target a 30% gross margin,
Yeah.
but that doesn't include all the layers.
So that would
Yeah.
average out to roughly what, 7 to 8% over the year.
Yeah.
So is that what is scalable and doable for the company long term without hurting the company? Or is that low? Or is that the number? If it's less or more, that's great, but just curious.
Yeah, I mean we could potentially like that definitely puts us in a profitable.
Yeah, and these are just thoughts too. So
Yeah.
if that's kind of better, a big chunk in the first month to incentivize, that's fine. In terms of simplicity in my mind, I just like it cookie cutter across the board. That I like the 30% thing in month one, but the thing is after they get through month one, they're getting a compensation deduction by 6x, going
Mhm.
30%. So, or you're talking about on all future sales, 30% on the first month, or just the first month of working there?
No, no, on all future sales.
Okay, all future sales.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I misunderstood you then. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
if that's better aligned with the company, then great. Okay, I misunderstood
And then
that.
year two, it's just you're kind of that's maybe where I don't know, we just drop that 5% a little
Yeah.
bit.
So, well, that's kind of a preference thing too, right? So, you can make it, I think about it in terms of retaining reps as long as I possibly can. And so you can make it to where you can drop it even with this idea. But one of the things that I tell companies to do when they have a residual comp plan that, where they're like, hey, we have residual, but the rep gets comfortable and then they start producing as much. It's like you just put in the contract, hey, this is the bare minimum income or the bare minimum activity and production requirements monthly to qualify for your residual. So if that is, you know, 16 proposals and four new accounts closed every month or something like that, to qualify for your previous residuals, then that's in the contract, meaning that if I do 15 proposals and close two accounts, I don't get my 8K in residual compensation the next month. So you should have something that like that in place. So those are some thoughts. But I think the bigger upfront in the first month on all accounts and then 5% residual is great. If you need to drop it after the first year and keep it somewhere else long term, that's what you want to do, fine. If it
Yeah.
makes sense financially for the company to just continue it, because I always think about it in terms of like recruiting the highest volume of quality people I can and then retaining those people as long as I can. And a big part of that is the comp, right? So that's kind of how my brain thinks. But really, the most important piece is the business. 30% month one, 5%,
The
for the
first year.
following 11 months. So that's a 25% difference. That's 3%. Yeah, 2.5%. So that's exactly 7.5%. I like the upfront thing. That's cool. But, I would decide, do I want to just make it 7.5%? Right.
Mm.
There's also the argument that, or even 7 to 8%. There's also the argument that, hey, it's not bad for the company to have more cash flow on the front end to fund the business. I personally, because of the cash flow reason, and because I just know how the recruiting process works, I'm going to sell these people regardless, the same
Hmm.
people. And the people that are in are going to do the work regardless. And the people, there's not going to be like a radical difference of 30%, 5%, or 7 to 8% just continually. Like from a
Yeah.
recruiting, to me, from a recruiting and retention perspective, there may not be too much of a difference. One is simpler to understand, also better on the front end, at least for the business, maybe not long term though. So think about those things. I think regardless, we're, on point and any of those kind of options are fine. But I do love the model.
Yeah, and we're trying to get them appointments too. So I think
you don't want to onboard me and just give me, well, it depends on kind of the nuances, right? Like the lead volume and
Mhm.
the investment into the lead volume. But the reality in a commission-based model, right? You've experienced it already, attrition, still going to happen, right? So
Yeah.
if you need to recruit 4 reps to get one fully ramped up, hypothetically, and you're giving leads to these 3 reps who weren't going to work out, then you're wasting money there. And so I think, once the onboarding process is set up, you may want to reserve any lead opportunities post those in those first initial weeks. So you got the initial 2-week checklist, and they got
Yeah.
to follow the system and get that initial onboarding bonus. And once they get that, then they get lead opportunities. Or once they've consistently shown that they can self-gen 16 plus proposals in a month, then they get lead opportunities. But I would make it another exciting future carrot incentive, not just a current thing of the job, because you can pitch leads and people are going to hear that and then immediately not be thinking about self-gen, right? People will always
Yeah.
hear what feels the best and most comfortable. I would make it more of like, almost like the vision piece or like a carrot piece. And one of the really cool things about our organization at Pinnacle is once you get past those first 90 days and you're at that 5K bare minimum income, we drip lead opportunities to the top 20% performers. Okay, so once you're past
Mhm.
so I would do something like that just to protect yourself from spending too much cash there and too much upset there because that's just a part of the game.
I think a lot of people once they start getting on inbound, that hunger to prospect gets a little less.
Yeah, and same thing with the residual too. You only
Yeah.
get inbound lead opportunities if you meet these monthly qualifications. 16 proposals, 4 closed deals or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do this, then you don't get lead opportunities and you don't get residual. And then also, it's probably more like 8% self-gen, 4% company leads on
Yeah.
residuals, right? And not the same commission. You want the self-gen commission to be 50 to 100%, better. So it's attractive to the rep, right? So they're not comparing. It's like I can either generate my own deals and get leads from the company, but everything's the same comp wise. You don't want that. You want there to be a hit because the company's paying for it and absorbing. You want to absorb that cost, but incentivize for self gen, and then
So
also make it a requirement to get the lead opportunities, even though they're smaller commission. To even get those and to get residuals, you got to produce and do XYZ from an activity perspective monthly to get it the following month, and
Mhm.
that's after you get through your first 90 days.
So you said on the inbound, the commission should be like 50% less. So maybe instead of doing that 30% like upfront, we just keep it at 5 the whole way.
Yeah, that's that it doesn't need to like objectively be 50 to 100% less. That's like usually
Mhm.
the case-ish. So
Yeah.
let's say that you came with, hey, 8% commission for self-gen, whatever that cost is conservatively for the company, you want to reduce that from the rep. So you don't budget for 8 grand and then all of a sudden you're like paying, let's say you called it 6%, but
Yeah.
really in total it's costing you 4%. Well, now you're paying 10% when you wanted to pay 8%.
Yeah.
So, usually cutting in half kind of keeps you safe in that way. That's kind of the reason for that.
Got it. Okay. I'll figure that part out.
All right, you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
Was this a good call? Was this helpful?
Yeah, super helpful. I think I have a much clearer
Yeah.
picture of what we need to do and how do we need to adjust to attract quality people.